Welcome back to Conversate with Akeem D. Earl. I am your host, Akeem D. Earl.
Obvious.
They don't know which one is Akeem D. Earl.
Well, I sure as heck am Akeem D. Earl.
You're not going to introduce yourself?
And I am Mrs. Akeem D. Earl.
Hey, gang, gang. And Mrs. Akeem D. Earl decided to copy me the colors today.
No.
But it's all good. It just shows our love.
Definitely
for
had
each
my
other.
shirt on first. Let's just put
Not
that there.
true. Well, that sets the floor for the topic of today's episode of how we met in our law school love story. Insert all that stuff. We're also going to talk about if we could do it all over, would we go to law school again? So those are two topics we're going to tackle today. We're going to dive in deep today. But before we do that, please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast, Conversate with Akeem D. Earl. We are back with season 3, and we're so excited to bring you guys more content, more information, more laughs, more information in the world of law. And we're just hyped. And for us to grow and for us to give you more of that content, we need you guys to support us. So please like, share, and subscribe. So, babe, how did we meet?
Well, we met in law school.
True.
You always like to say I was your TA.
Like to say, or like do I like to say the facts of what happened?
That's how you like to introduce how we met. Oh, she was my TA.
I mean, that's what it was.
I mean, yeah, but you make it seem like it was like inappropriate.
No, I don't. I always let people know once you're in grad school, it's all fair game. We all grown in grad school. If this was college, then we get into predatory land.
Well, let's be clear. I don't think we started talking until after I was your TA.
That's true.
Like, we might have flirted, but we didn't.
Or you may have flirted with me. You told me some flavor, and I was like, dang, I might as well.
I'm sitting here. The most memorable moment I remember of us like first getting to know each other. I'm sitting in a study room.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to UDC, it's on the 5th floor.
Shout out to UDC.
I'm in a little chill study room studying because I'm in my 2nd year of law school. He's in his 1st year of law school.
Yeah, that's yeah. We should get some background on how it works. So we were both evening students. Yeah. So UDC set it up where you, obviously as an evening student, you can't take all your classes in the first semester how a full-time student would do. So she was a year ahead of me, but we still had classes together because the way they offset it was she had classes that I didn't take, but we also had classes together, if that makes sense, so that we could catch up. In the following year, I would have classes with the incoming class behind me. Yeah. So that's how they rotated. So she was a year ahead of me, but we still had classes together. Mm-hmm. And she was my TA
for one class.
For my writing class.
Yes.
With teacher's assistant.
Yes, teaching assistant. And so just a random day, I'm wearing my little Drake shirt because I had just went to a Drake concert with my girl Indigo.
She was hype.
And I'm sitting in the room studying. I'm studying, minding my business, listening to music. In walks Akeem, asking about something stupid. Like, he didn't have nothing to talk about. He just wanted to come in and bother me. And so he comes in, he's like, "Oh, you like Drake?" And I'm like, "Yeah. What's your top favorite song?" You know how guys do. And so we started chatting, and then I don't know, the conversation ended up turning into a walk to go get, it was like Thai food.
Thai food, yeah, across the street.
Go get Thai food. And I'm learning, I'd be asking questions. So I'm learning he got, 3 siblings. He's from New York. He's Jamaican. I'm learning all this stuff. And then from there, we just kind of blossom into friends. We had like this kind of 3 group of us with another friend from law school.
Yeah.
And we would always hang out. And then when like that person would leave, it was just, us. And so I think I would say like we started as friends. I could never tell you when our first date was because I don't know if we've ever had like a first date.
We had a first date.
Where was our first date?
It was that spot on K Street.
What spot?
For happy hour.
But we were with Stephanie, so I don't agree that was our first date.
True. Was she there?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. All right. Do you guys want to hear the truth now? This is what the truth is about that righteous date where I met the love of my life. I did not go in there to flirt. I was a man about business, right? I was a man on a mission to finish law school and do my thing and excel. So like we said, she was my TA for my writing class. It's probably one of the hardest classes in law school. and she was an amazing TA. And she will tell you that everybody went to her. Like, she'll probably be attacked in the hallways with questions like, "Yo, Tony, can you read over my stuff?" Or we call it Jones at the time. "Jones, can you read over my stuff?" Yada, yada, yada. So that's what I did. It was one day I probably stressing, killing myself over this motion that I had to write for Professor Anya. Shout out to Professor Anya for our writing class. And I saw her in the library sitting by herself. And I was like, "Yo, this is my time. I need some help." It was an act of desperation. And I came to her with my paper.
I don't remember talking about no paper.
I came to her with my paper. But I think it was such a short conversation about my paper because it was something like I was overthinking.
It was little. Like,
right.
He didn't really need my help.
Isn't that what the TA is for? It's easy for her, but for me,
help for real. He
but
just
for me,
like, look how good of a writer I am.
It was double intention, if that's a word. I knew that.
All right, so you flirted with me.
I don't think it was a flirt.
What was the second intention?
To have a conversation.
Yeah, all right.
It was a conversation.
Yeah,
like, oh, this is an opportunity to enhance my learning, but to also talk to a very beautiful woman.
Yeah, all right.
It was double intention.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, we went into it. We went over the motion, and she helped me a lot. And then yes, we did get into a conversation about concerts and what was her favorite concerts. And she said that the Migos suck as performers.
As performers, they did. They just stood there.
I was shocked. I never saw the Migos perform. So when you said that, I was like, really?
They were not good.
Yeah.
We were just waiting for great time.
So I think that's what sparked it. It was like, dang, the Migos suck as performers. So we started talking about all that. Yeah, and then we were talking for a minute. I think we were going back and forth of talking and you helping me. And that's why we were there for so long. We were like, all right, we need to get some food because we've been here for a couple hours just talking. And that's when we went on the walk. And she's right. That's where our friendship it grew past that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You flirted with me?
That's how it went. And then since then, we were just flirting all day, like during class, during my class where she was supposed to be TAing, where she's supposed to be focused on students, she was flirting with me. You know what I'm saying? Like, she's supposed to be giving input and pouring into the minds of the next generation, and she's flirting with your boy.
I will somewhat admit that, but you gotta recognize. I went to a law school where it was very hard to find an attractive brother. Okay, so when Akeem showed up, it was just like, oh, he's a good looking dude. And when he showed interest into me as he did, it was reciprocal. That's all that happened.
I always ask, like, when I walked through the door, was it like in slow motion? Like,
no, it wasn't. It was like he was good looking, but what sealed the deal was when I saw his writing, and I was like, oh, he's not dumb. Like, he actually knows how to write. And that, I think that's really where like the attraction came. Was I was like, oh, he's actually really, really smart.
And that was a shock to me because I didn't think that I was a good writer. That was my hardest class, but that was you sealed the deal when we were talking about stocks.
And I had my little Acorns.
And we had the same Acorns account and stash. I was like, oh yeah, she's the one. Because at the time it was nobody talked about it. Mm-hmm. Nobody knew about it. And obviously I knew she was brilliant from just her being my TA. And you held sessions on Saturdays and with the different students, stuff like that. So I knew that you were intelligent. But
and Akeem would try to like bet me for like a better grade in the class.
Oh yeah.
I remember he said he bet me he would get a higher grade than me in contracts class with Cohen. He lost.
Yeah.
But it was cute that he thought he could get.
She literally had a whole year ahead of me. But I think
we had that class at the same time, bro. What are you talking about?
But a little tidbit, I just feel like when it comes to law school classes, I think a year ahead absolutely helped because you kind of get an understanding.
It was Cohen.
True, but you
was not teaching.
You had a baseline of how to go about taking a law school class.
No, I went from Ferguson, who was like this amazing crim teacher, Onya, and then like a few others, to Cohen. Like,
true,
Cohen was the hardest class you'll ever be in. She's a great teacher, but it was the hardest class you'll ever be in. And so I felt like I just worked harder.
Yeah.
That's
true too. Nah,
whole Jeopardy game.
Yeah.
Contracts, rules, and information that we played to study. So
that helped a lot. Yeah, I did see the levels in terms of like focus and intention behind the work. Because I feel like again, in law school, you tend to lean back on what got you through college. So I knew I was smart. I knew I had my head on my shoulders, but it took another level of dedication to like get through law school.
Yeah.
And I think Tonee showed me that. I was like, oh, no, I need to go a little harder because I'm not getting this, and this is hard. I'm getting C's. I'm like, dang, I need. So once I saw
I got
her,
straight A's. No,
yeah,
that was the first year.
The first semester.
The first
yeah,
year I got straight A's.
yeah. You started to say I distracted you. That's why the grades went
Probably.
down.
No, I really think I was like, all right, I did it. I got 4.0 in law school. I don't need to do it no more.
Yeah, no, that's real. So, did you go into law school looking for a man, or like was that on your mind?
When I applied for law school, everybody was kind of like, oh, you'll probably find your husband there. It wasn't really like, I'm going to law school for a husband. It was just one of those things like, if it happens, cool, but I'm not expecting it. And I really didn't think it would happen, particularly after my first year when I was like, the well is dry. Like, there was nobody there that like I was even remotely interested in on that level.
To your boy.
I mean, I dated, but like there was nobody there that like I felt like it could be a long-term connection or anything like that.
No, that's real. That's true. I have a funny story. I went to visit a law school. I'm not going to say what law school. And I talked to one of the admissions counselors. And it was a black dude. And we talked for hours. But somehow it got to the conversation of like, should you be in a relationship in law school? And he was like, brother, I'm going to tell you, if you come here, they're going to be all on you. They're going to be all on you. But he said, especially the white girl, they're going to be all on. I was like, word? No, I was like, no.
That was Howard.
It was not Howard. No, it was not Howard. I'm not going to say the school. And there's so many schools in D.C.
Catholic, American.
I'm not going to say the school.
American.
But
notice he didn't say it wasn't American.
But he did remind me of like, he said he was even divorced and all these stuff about people getting married in law school who either got divorced or was able to focus, yada, yada. I was the same way. I was like, my intention going into law school, I didn't want to get married until after law school. That was my goal.
He was fighting it.
I wasn't fighting it.
He was
I had a goal in mind. Like I said, I was focused. I pressed on towards the
fighting it and then had the nerve to propose to me after I took the bar. So he still had one more year of law school.
Right. You see what love does? Love just derails.
And then he excelled and got almost every award I got his last year.
Yeah. It was the boost. It was the booster.
Behind every great man.
No, it's true. First time taker. First time taking
Passed the bar the first time. I sent him to my mama's out here.
Yeah.
For like a month.
Locked in.
And he had locked in and passed the bar the first time. You welcome.
Thank you, babe. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, so that was there's a lot more details in that, but yeah, I think the main thing was that we just started as friends, and I think we are just focused on our goals and understanding that, man, we really have a lot in common in terms of what we want to go after. Really brought us together. And I think the moments of just spending time together, I just remember us like sitting outside my apartment, listening to music, talking about random deep stuff.
Oh, that's another thing. Akeem lived right up the road from the law school.
Right, yes,
and
that was important.
He didn't have a car, so
let's just say, not because I was on something bum. It's because I didn't need one. His
job was on the green line. The school was on the red line. So like,
it was perfect.
He's a New Yorker for real. Like he was just using public transit.
Facts.
And so I would offer to just drop him off the road. Mind you, this is how you could tell I was from, because my house was about an hour away from the school.
She lived in Maryland.
I lived in Maryland, like Brandywine area.
Maryland.
So I was a while away from the school, and I would still like drop him. I would take him to his apartment, and we would sit in the car till like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning after a class that got out at like 9 or 10 o'clock.
Yeah, no
just
facts.
Talking, and then I would drive home and have to get up in the morning for work.
You was tired?
Of course, I was tired, and then I would have to get up. I would have to get up in the morning, go to work, go to class, and probably drop you off again.
I mixed it up. I was conscious of the fact. I think out of like the 5 days we were in class, 2 days I would ask her for a ride. And she would play it sometimes. Like I would have to ask her, do the whole little begging thing. And then some days she would just actually straight up offer me. Like I'll be walking out the building, like I'm taking the and she'd be like, "Nah, I'm taking you home. Like, don't worry."
It got to a point where like it was a known fact that after class I was going to drop the chemo. It's just there was no more like, "Can you take?"
Because it got to a point where we like we want to spend time.
Yeah.
Like we like this has to happen. We definitely want to spend time together. We grown now.
You can't.
We used to skip classes. Not that. We used to skip class on Wednesdays. No, we used to skip class on Wednesdays to get wings.
Shannon go Hannigan's.
O'Brien or Hannigan. We used to skip class. We would dead be like right before class start, like, yo, you want to get some wings? Like, we would skip class. And then we also skip class to watch movies.
Yeah, we would go watch movies.
Yeah.
Mind you, we still excel.
Yo, we still tilted, man. This is not an ad for you to skip class. Go to class.
But take your breaks.
Right.
Take your breaks.
Right.
Acknowledge how many absences you can have and take your breaks.
That's the key. Yeah. Because we could. Yeah.
So what was the thing for you that made you say UDC? Well, made you say law school and then UDC?
Law school was always the goal. Since I was in the 8th grade, since I figured out what a lawyer was, and I did a mock trial, I did great. In the mock trial, the judge acknowledged me as having the best examination. I didn't even know the full scope of what a trial was. The program I was in just explained the basics of it. We did a mock trial. And for me to get that award, I was like, dang, I'm good at something. Like, and I felt good to do it. So since then, law school was always the goal. Since the 8th grade, I knew I had to get there. UDC, plan was never to go to UDC. The plan wasn't even to be in DC. That's what's so crazy too. Because I took a gap year in between when I finished college and went to law school. So I applied to schools in New York. I think I was going to be in New York. But I also did DC when I got the job in DC. And when I was a paralegal at the DC AG's office, that's when I was like, okay, I'm going to be here for a while. I applied to different DC law schools. I knew that I wanted to keep my job as a paralegal. I spoke to different mentors. I thought it over. I was like, I want to be able to have real professional experience and have that impact my law school experience, and then vice versa, have my law school experience make me a better paralegal. And that's exactly what happened. And I think Howard didn't have a part-time law school. I would love to go to Howard, but they didn't have a part-time program. And I think I got waitlisted for American. I think I applied for all the DC law schools. But UDC just made the most sense. Like I said, the price, Lord, the price was so good. And just to be able to go to HBCU, visited, loved the people. I think I even went to like a talk there. There was like a panel there one time. And I forgot who was speaking, but it was a powerful panel. I was able to meet different UDC people. This was before I even applied. So I think it all just lined up perfectly for law school and UDC to be the next step. What about you?
When you got into UDC, did you ever have any thought that you might transfer out?
That was the plan. That's so funny. That was the plan was to transfer out. And one of my professors, I was telling her like that's a plan, and she was like, "Well, did you apply anywhere, or are you putting together the application?" I was like, "No." She was like, "So, are you serious? Where you going? Like, are you serious about transfer?" I think I'll just be a lazy, but whatever. But it was also people there. That's just so crazy. There's also people there, including you. Was like, "Why are you leaving? Like, why are you transferring? Like, you're building a community here. The professors know you. You're building a rapport. You're getting involved. What benefit are you going to get from leaving now outside of the name?"
Yeah.
And obviously, everybody has their own path. Like, people have different goals, so they want the law school experience to match the goal.
Yeah.
But when I sat down and actually planned it, I thought about it, I'm like, nah, this is where I need to be.
Yeah.
I'm like, this, what I'm chasing was very shallow. I wanted the name. I wanted to be like, oh, I want to go to Georgetown. I want to be American, yada yada. Yeah. But everything I needed to excel in law school was at UDC, and I realized that, and I was like, yeah, I ain't going. Yeah. What about you?
So, I think I partly wanted to always be a lawyer, and then partly was like, maybe I want to do something else. Because, like, in undergrad, I studied law and American civilization. That's what my degree is in. But I also, like, double majored in acting and theater. Double majored in theater. And so there was always a part of me that wanted to, like, be in theater, be on stage, be in film. Yeah. And a lot of people say, well, you can put the two together because there's a lot of kind of acting that goes on in corporate.
For sure.
But once I got out of in college, a professor who was a lawyer was like, you don't want to do it, you'll hate it, you won't like it, don't go. And so I was kind of like, okay. Mind you, I went to a PWI. So there wasn't a lot of acknowledgement that like there are not a lot of Black women lawyers at this point, and like thought like actually you're needed, so you should go.
Right.
And I don't even know if he thought like maybe I might have the nonprofit mind. You know, it was just one of those things like you're not going to enjoy being a lawyer. So I didn't even take the LSAT when they were offering it. I kind of got out of college like not really knowing what I was going to do. My first job was at Best Buy as a customer service rep. And I think it didn't take long before I was like, no, I did not go to college
for this. For no Geek Squad.
No. And I think I was listening to like Pandora. And do you remember Pandora music?
Oh, yeah. Shout out to Pandora. Is Pandora still around?
I think so.
Pandora was lit, man.
It was lit.
Pandora was really good.
I probably had it in like one ear while I was at work, and I hear this ad for GW Paralegal Studies. And I'm like, could be a paralegal. Like, that's kind of like best of both worlds. I don't got to work super hard and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I do that, and then I get my first paralegal job at Steptoe & Johnson.
Yeah.
Attorneys are talking to me any kind of way, and didn't really care for that. Then I move on to the Pathways program at Department of Labor. Nice. And I cycle as a paralegal and a legal assistant through that and through DOD. But by the time I got to DOL, I was like, I need more.
Yeah.
It was not satisfactory to just be a paralegal. Yeah. Mind you,
shout out to all the paralegals. Paralegal game.
Right. They work so hard, and that's primarily why it wasn't satisfactory for me to do it anymore. Right. And mind you, where I worked at DOL, I was surrounded by just like smart Black women, two of which who were at Howard Law. Yeah. Which I thought was so cool because they were working at DOL part-time and going to law school in the day.
Man, the grind, bro.
Right. And so it was really that was like, it was that and then another thing. I was out in Howard County and I think I like went to the dentist or got my eye doctor or whatever, one doctor, and I was leaving. And as I was heading out of Howard County, I get pulled over by a cop. And I'm sitting there like, all right, maybe I was speeding, maybe my tail lights out, whatever. And I'm waiting maybe 10 or 15 minutes. And then I see six more cars, I'll say, behind me. And so now I'm nervous and I got my ID and my registration ready. And this lady cop comes over. Now, you know, they were not minority. I'll say that. She comes to my window and she's like, do you know why I pulled you over? And I'm like, no. And she's like, well, can I see your license and registration? I said, sure. And I gave it to her. And she was like, whose car is this? And I said, it's mine. Right. And she was like, well, do you want to tell me why your license plates don't match the license plates on your registration? And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, they should.
They was there the last time I
checked. And so then she was like, come here, come look. And she brings me to the front of the car. And I dead knew. I was just like, those are not mine. I didn't know what mine looked like. Right. But I knew they weren't those. They were dingy and dirty and old.
Were they like from like California or something like that?
No. They just weren't mine. One was there were two different ones. One in the front was a DC plate, the back was a Maryland plate. I was like, oh, I don't know what happened. And so they're like, we're just gonna have to arrest you right for the moment while we figure out what's going on. They put me in handcuffs.
6 cops for that though?
6 cops for a stolen Honda Civic.
My God.
At that point. And so they put me in handcuffs, and at that point I'm like, I'm a graduate from BW. Like, I was trying to put all my accolades out. Like, I would never steal a car. Yeah. They put me in the back of a car, in the police car, and they're like, so you want to tell me, you know, just still asking questions about like this car. And I'm like, the car is mine.
Right. And everything I love.
Bro, I was like, if you look up my registration, you will see I have valid tags. Mind you, they're rummaging through my car, trying to see if they can find anything to incriminate me. And they go in my purse. And they find a bullet, a shell casing because I had went to the gun range.
Oh, boy.
And I saved a shell casing.
Oh, Lord.
It's like my souvenir. It was one little shell casing, and I saved it. And then they found right. And then a few years prior, I had so I had Honduran money because I had went to Honduras.
Dang. They thought you was on chop on this shit. Like, we got him.
They were like, so are you dealing with drugs? Like, what are you talking about? Bro, they were looking for any and everything.
Bullets and forward money.
One
and stolen
shell casing one showcasing and like $5 in Honduran
But you don't
money.
look intimidated. There's no way they saw you like, this is the kingpin. This is the one we've been looking for.
Bro. And so I'm in the car and they're like, we're going to have to tow the car. Which at that point, I'm just like, okay, like, I asked them, could you tow it to my dad's house? Yeah. And they were like, no. They had to take it to the impound. I was like, okay. And then I'm just wondering, like, how am I going to get home? Because at this point, my phone battery has died. Jeez. And they're like, we'll drop you off at the mall, the Columbia Mall. And then as I get out, he's like, if we find your fingerprints on these plates, it's not going to look good. And at the time, I'm like, just frustrated and upset and sad. So I really didn't think about what he had said. And I'm like, you still think I'm that much of a criminal that my prints are even in the system? Right. Why would you assume my... Back. So that kind of emboldened me to be like, no, I have to go and become a lawyer. I need to be able to know how to handle situations like this. And so it was that. And my idea was I wanted to go to Georgetown. Yeah. I wanted to go to Georgetown. I wanted to go to, Georgetown was really it. I just wanted to go to Georgetown. I didn't really care about the other schools. But I knew that, like, I was partying in college, so my GPA wasn't the best. And I didn't care about that LSAT. I said, you're not going to get me to spend a whole bunch of money to prep for the LSAT.
LSAT was a killer.
I didn't care. I said, I'm going to take it once. If the Lord has it in mind for me to go to law school, I will get in. Yeah. I will get in. And so I applied. I applied to UDC. I only applied to UDC because I said, okay, I'll go to UDC, I'll get good grades, and then I'll go to Georgetown. That's probably why I got my 4.0. Because I was like, I need good grades to get into Georgetown. But like you, I had a lot of friends, and I had Professor Onya who was like, do you want to be my TA? And I really realized that, like, oh, I had to stay here because I've already created a name for myself. I've already created a reputation for myself. So that was my story of how I got into law school.
That's the thing about UDC. I always say that UDC is special because I don't think it's unique to DC, because what you realize when you go to UDC, you're in the same rooms as the Howards, the Georgetowns, the Americans. Or you went to panels at these big law firms, or you went to happy hours at these different
mock trial competition.
We're in the same rooms. So outside of the school specific programs, we didn't feel like we missed out on anything or missed out on any opportunities. We felt like we had to work a little extra hard to get what we got. Yeah. But if you were focused on what you wanted and sought out those opportunities, there were a plethora of things you could get into.
There was nothing you couldn't do by going to UDC that you thought you could absolutely do at any other school. Like it really just, I still had internships. You're doing great things. But yeah, I mean, going in UDC, they say this thing about, university for dumb children. Like they had all these different things to say about it. But after going there, it was like, oh, actually opportunities are endless. Yep. It wasn't, the perfect place, but if you found a way to work for it and found a way for it to work for you, you could absolutely, the sky really was your.
And even the horror stories you heard about law school before you started, people ripping pages out of the library and
there was
the dog eat dog. And we didn't experience none of that. We didn't have to.
Because they don't get you against each other like all these other schools do. Yeah. They really do encourage community and family environment so that you all can make it to the next level. Yeah. And a bulk of people who graduate from UC go on to hang up their shingle and they start their firms and they do well. So, yeah.
If that wasn't a commercial for UDC,
right?
I don't know what is. Go to UDC Law.
Right. Right.
All right. So, if you could do it all over again, would you go to law school?
Absolutely not. And I think the only reason why I'd be like, I guess I would have to is because of you. Like, I don't know if I would have met you if I didn't go to law school.
Yeah.
But no, I would not. And if I was able to say, I know what I know now, and I'm getting the opportunity to choose to do it again, it's absolutely no.
But why?
I do not like being an attorney.
Wow.
I don't. I like
Breaking news.
I like it when I'm in the nonprofit world and I can help people and there's not a lot of pressure and it's like, you're really just helping someone who's in need. But then even when I'm in the place of helping someone in need and I get to a system like in Arizona where in their justice court, you don't actually have to be law trained. And so you switch the burden of proof and there's all these different things. It's just like, why are we playing chess? Like, why isn't it clear? Why can't we play checkers? Why are you making it harder than it needs to be?
Yeah.
I don't like that aspect. And I blame media and the Cosby Show and How to Get Away with Murder for making me think that, like, as long as you followed the rules and you knew what you were doing, like, you would be good, because there's a lot of people in this field who are making it up as they go, and it works for them, and I hate that.
Why?
Because you should know the rules. You should not be able to walk into a court and not have any idea of what you're talking about, and the judge be like, "Oh, okay, I see what you're saying." Like, you shouldn't be able to do that. If the rule is X and you talking about Y, that has nothing. You could potentially ruin someone's life in that way.
Yeah, and you feel like you put in all this work to get things right, to be the consummate professional, to be excellent in what you do.
Yeah.
And you walk into the courtroom and you're seeing mediocrity.
Right.
Excel.
Right.
You're like, why did I do all this work?
Right. Why am I working this hard? And you got people out here, and it's like, even the people, especially when you're against these attorneys who at $300, $400 hourly rates, and they could care less about settlement at the early point. You call them up, hey, look, my client really doesn't want to go to trial. What's your client want? And they're just like, oh, let me get back to you. They wait, they file all these different things, and it's just like, dude, like, I'm trying to help my client by keeping billing low, because that's what's going to help them. You trying to help yourself. And I think that's sad. I think that's sad.
Do you feel like the idea that mediocrity scales at a high level, and the people who are excellent and who actually care about what they do, don't you think that applies across all different arenas of careers?
I just hope there are not mediocre doctors. It would be hard
you
for
watch
me
The Pit?
No, I haven't watched that.
Gray's got some bad doctors. Gray's Anatomy.
I mean, but they are a teaching hospital. I just feel like if I'm going in the Mayo Clinic, y'all all gotta be top notch. You know what I'm saying? True. Like, I appreciate that. I will say, I guess, like, there's the kind of hypocrisy in my thought, because potentially in the free clinics and the lower tiered hospitals, maybe they are somewhat mediocre. But I would like to think, nah. As far as that profession goes, probably accountants and things like that, sure.
Yeah.
Sure, you got by barely knowing 2 + 2 = 4, and you're probably doing someone's tax.
What idea did you have? What was the utopia in your mind? Like, what was the perfect scenario when you got out of law school and started practicing? What were you expecting?
I was expecting nonprofit attorneys to make way more than what I was making.
Really? You thought nonprofit was making money?
I came in at less than what I was making as a paralegal.
No,
working for the government.
Oh yeah.
So it's not that I thought they were going to be making buku dollars, but I definitely thought they would be making, especially in DC. I thought you would be making enough to survive.
I was shocked that when I graduated law school and got my first job offer, it was less than what I was making as a paralegal. That just doesn't make any sense to me.
It was sad when it's like you don't make so much such that you qualify for the services you're given.
Yes.
Like,
yeah, I'll be struggling,
bro. Bro, we cannot all be struggling. So,
and they're working more hours, working harder, trying to scrape by.
There's no bonuses in it. There's none of that. You're really doing it for the fulfillment of
for
helping
the love of the
people.
game.
That's why I say, in a perfect world, if I was given the opportunity to do it again, but there was a change where I didn't need the money, I would do it again. I would do it, because then I feel like I'd have unlimited resources to like just beat these people who have all the money and charge all the money. Yeah. So in a perfect world.
Do you feel like even with the resources that you've had and the jobs that you had, do you feel like you were able to impact people's lives through your work?
For sure. Because I still have people from like my first nonprofit who will reach out, like clients, who will reach out. It's always good when like a client feels seen and they feel heard and they don't just feel like, obviously the law and there's things that they're telling you that you're just like, that doesn't matter. But you're not saying like I've worked in places where like they don't realize, like, they just want to talk.
Yeah.
They just want to talk about their problems to someone who can blame, they can help, And so I like being that person who can, I will take the extra time and chat. At the end of what you've got now, I will let you know that it's highly irrelevant to your case.
you gonna,
but I'm glad.
Listen, I feel you, but you're gonna lose.
We can't use that, but
right.
Thank you.
Man. And so do you feel like that doesn't outweigh the feelings of, it still doesn't feel worth it to you?
Not in this current state of the world. And not with the fact that like people are charging as much as they're charging, taking advantage of the system. I don't like that. If it were like you actually had competent judges, and I'm not saying that all judges are incompetent, but like I've been in front of some judges where it's just like, what are you doing? You know, if you actually had judges who like, and maybe there's that factor where like they're tired and they have a huge caseload. You know? I get that, but no, I think I would continue to pursue theater and acting.
Be an actor, join the Actors Guild. Yeah, I would go back to law school.
All right, why?
I agree with everything that you said in terms of entering the profession. And it's so funny because a lot of attorneys have warned us, when you're in law school, man, you think you're ready to change the world, bro. You think you're ready to take on the world and make an impact. And I'm not saying you can't, but a lot of attorneys was like, I feel your zeal. I feel your passion. But when you get here, you're going to see just how big this hamster wheel is. You're going to see how big this system is. You're going to see how big these issues are.
That ever get discouraging at times?
Absolutely. And I think that's part of why I would go back, because it wants to break you down. It wants to be difficult. It wants to extract the people who actually care about people, who want to see lives change. So it makes it harder. It makes it difficult. It makes it very discouraging. But if we just ceded to that, if we just gave up, then what would the world actually look like if we just gave up? And I think part of that is I see how much me becoming a lawyer means to people. Just the fact of me being a lawyer. And we had this conversation of like, we meet people out here and they'll introduce us to other people. It's like, oh, you know, they're lawyers. And I'm like, we didn't ask them to like introduce us as that, or we didn't ask them, but it means, and you told me that like this, it means a lot to people to see Black people in these professions, in these roles.
Is it because of the prestige of the profession or the lack of us being in it?
I think it's both.
Because I don't really see, you know, people feeling all grandiose when their white son or daughter, you know, become, and maybe they do, but it just doesn't seem like in that field. It's like, oh, you're gonna go be a lawyer, and like it doesn't feel like there's a lot of obstacles in place.
It's more of a legacy thing,
right? It's more of a legacy thing. I mean, and that's not for everybody. I'm not saying it's for everybody, but it just seems like white people dominate this field, so it's not a big. It's a big deal, but it's not as big a deal as for you or I, where people are just like, oh, they're a lawyer. And it's like, is it because of the field I'm in that you really have no clue how janky it is? Or is it because I'm a Black person in this field?
I think it's both. I always say that I'm for Black people occupying spaces where we're not represented. It's needed. Because again, we are giving up these spaces if we're not supposed to be there. And I do think it matters of like, are you pursuing this thing just because a lot of Black people aren't in it? Yeah, that's gonna only last for so long. But I think we still had a passion for the law. We enjoyed looking over facts, applying it to the law, arguing emotions, and being in court. But I just think that once we got into our professions, it didn't look like it looked like in law school. I mean, that was that's also a disservice. Also, we were professionals, so we not understood. But that's also probably a disservice law school does, where like in law school, it looks very glamorous. You're doing these fake cases, you're doing mock trial, you're doing law review is real, but like you're in this very contained space and you're looking outward to the world of like, oh, this is what I'm going to look forward to. And then they shoot you out there and you have no clue how to be an actual lawyer in this world. Right. You have no clue when you go to court and the opposing counsel tries some crazy stuff. And you're like, whoa.
Right,
like,
what is that?
My teacher would have kicked me out the classroom. Yeah. Like, I would have gotten kicked out of law school if I tried this. Yeah. And the opposing counsel looking at you like, well, what you going to do? What's next? And the judge rules in their favor. What you going? That's insane. Yeah. Like, and I think that's where the frustration comes. Like, yo, this is nothing that I thought it was going to be like. And then the passion starts to dwindle a little bit more. But I think it's both for me, where I do still love the law. I do enjoy the practice, but I also know what it means to my community, even though it can be very discouraging. It can be very hard.
Is it a field you feel like you could being until retirement?
In some way, for sure. Part of me is like, I worked so hard to be here. I ain't giving this up. I ain't gonna give it up. But I'm figuring out what I want my work life to look like. And I feel like I've never done that. I tell all my mentees this now. Yeah, you have your passion for what area of law you want to do, but it matters just as much what you want your work life to be like. What do you want every day when you wake up to be like? Find the area of law that matches that. If you like being in the office, then you look for the office job. If you like being on your feet and moving back and forth from the office to the court, there's a job for that. If you like being in your car, traveling from town to town, driving, there's a job for that. If you like staying at home, not going, there's a job for that. What do you want your work life to be like? And I feel like that's the question I've been asking myself lately, and then formulating my interests that tie to the law and how I want my every day to look like. And I'm slowly forming it, and eventually gonna get there.
Well, that's good. I'm happy for you. I love that for you.
Well, that for you too. I mean, it's all realization. I feel like once you get to a point where you recognize what you don't want, you just gotta move off that. Yeah. You gotta keep pressing on.
I think I felt the same way as like, well, what else would I do? I've spent all this time.
I don't think you're ready to give up the law. I think I've seen you impact so many people's lives, either through the law or law adjacent, whether it's your bar class, whether it's SJM, whether it's mentoring. That's all law to me.
But
I don't separate.
I'll say this. I don't necessarily need to be an attorney to do those things. And so, yes, SJM and my bar course are products of me going through law school, but I don't need to still be an attorney to do those. I feel like I love teaching. I love helping people, reach their full potential. Yeah. But until the litigation system can get to a place where it's actually fair for all litigants, it's just not a place where I think I don't see me identifying any change that I could make.
Yeah. That's real. That's real. That's just the reality of it. And I think it's important for law students to hear that. And again, understand what they want and what they're going after. Yeah. And I don't want to be discouraging.
And that is always the hard part.
Yeah.
I try not to be discouraging. And I just tell you my truth, how I felt. And you can ask any of my professors and they'll be like, oh, you're different. Because I used to complain about how easy law school was. I used to complain about how the classes, I just felt like they were holding my hand and stuff like that, where there was other students who were like, girl, what you talking about?
Hard.
What you talking about? So, and it's not to say that like the law isn't hard. It is. It just wasn't the challenge I thought it would be. And so it's one of those things where it's like, I really want to do something that challenges. And so like starting a business and finding clients and finding, people to trust my product and trust what I'm offering. That is challenging for sure. And I certainly could not have gotten there without law school. Yeah. But the litigation aspect, the piece where most people go to law school for, it just doesn't do it. Yeah. It doesn't. It's like playing a game where it's always about the odds. It's not like strategy based or anything. It's always about the odds.
Yeah, maybe this jury might.
Right.
Man, it's so good, especially when it comes to jury. That's like the worst period of just waiting. You just, even though the evidence might be on your side, you put on a good case, the jury could just decide off of whatever they feeling that day. Yeah. The color of your shoes, you pronounce that word wrong.
Yeah. Have you seen the movie Juror Number 2?
No.
It's a crazy movie. If you haven't seen it, you should see it. But it's about this guy who's on trial for murder of his girlfriend. One of the jurors actually was the one who did it. But they didn't know they did it. It was an accident. They didn't know they did it until they got on the jury for it. And so you're seeing this person trying their best to get an acquittal for the defendant. But when he realizes, like, if it's not an acquittal, if it's like a hung jury, then it could potentially come back to bite him. Yeah. Because he has well, you have to watch it.
He needs to get this guy convicted.
So it's either an acquittal or conviction.
Yeah.
And he was at a point where he couldn't convince everybody to acquit. So it would have been a hung jury. And that would have given them time to figure out potentially there was another suspect. Yeah. And so he changes his mind and he gets
convicted.
Dang. And so it's just one of those things. It was like, I bet you that happens. Like doubt there's people on the jury who've actually
Who committed the crime.
But I bet you, like, a lot of the people in the juror in that movie were like, I'm trying to get home with kids. Like,
yeah, I'm trying to get out of here. Yeah.
You're dealing with people who they don't have the patience to really sit there and acknowledge, like, this is someone's life.
Yeah.
You know, and then if you had, they pointed out the fact that the defendant had a public defender. And so there were a lot of things in his argument that could have been stronger to really sway the jury to acknowledge, like, actually, it doesn't seem like the government met their burden.
But that's real life, y'all. That's what's called adulting.
Go to law school. If you have the fire to go to law school, go and do so well and change the world. It does not. Everybody doesn't have the same experience. So as you see with my husband, he would do it all over again. He loves where he's at. He loves what he's experienced. For me, I'd rather be on Broadway with Denzel. You know?
And Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah.
No, that's real. That's real. Well, take what you need to take from that, from our stories. We hope that it was helpful in any type of way. If you have any questions or comments, put them in our comment section. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We love all feedback. Let us know what topics you want to discuss. Like we said, we need to have an episode on paralegal stories.
Oh, yeah.
And how that went, and any tips and tricks. People who want to enter the field like we did on that too. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks for listening. This episode of Conversate. Let's go.